real times. Family, this is your brother Willie Muhammad, and welcome again to another broadcast of Class is in Session. And we'll thank you today for tuning in live to WBOK 1230 AM, where it is real talk for real times, and we hope that you enjoy the broadcast that we're having today. Hope you enjoy the broadcast that we're having today. We have a special guest that'll be calling in. He's calling in from the city of Houston, and he's the student regional minister of Muhammad Mosque number 45 and the Southwest regional student minister of the Nation of Islam. So before we get into that and we hear from our brother who has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience, we just want to make some basic announcements. So if you're listening, you're always welcome on tomorrow at 10 a.m. to come out and hear our Sunday lecture at 4201 Downman Road. And that's once again 10 a.m. 4201 Downman Road. So we would love to see you there in advance. And if you are listening, you have about an hour and a half. You can also swing by Downman Road and pick yourself up a delicious fish sandwich that we have at 4201 Downman Road as well. So as I said, we have a guest here. He's calling in from Houston, our brother, student minister, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad. How you doing, brother?
I'm fine, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, man. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to call in to share with us, what things you are working on, things you have experienced, and your insight as it relates to what is taking place with Black America here in America. Basically, I was about to say in New Orleans, but it's the same wherever, unfortunately, when you see our people. So for those who are not familiar with you, Brother Abdul, can you give them a brief background of yourself?
I'll do the best I can, brother. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me on the People's Sacred Airwaves at WBOK 1230 AM. I'm very appreciative of the invitation to come on the show, because class is indeed in session. Yes, I'm Abdul Haleem Muhammad. As you have said, I serve as the Southwest Regional Student Minister of the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I've been Minister of Muhammad Mosque number 45, student minister, since 1987. This will make my 31st year. July 1st is my 31st year, and have been over the Southwest region, founded by Brother Carl Muhammad, since 1994. My background is, of course, I'm originally from New York, from the East Coast, came to Texas in 1980, and pursuing a background in, a career in banking and finance, eventually wound up becoming, again, a student minister. It isn't like one of those things where I ate some bean pie one night or some greens or something, and God called me to the ministry. It's just one of those things that evolved in my life. Having had met the minister in 1976 as a college student at Hampton University, at that time Hampton Institute, I met Minister Farrakhan. Grew up under his voice, of course. My grandmother lived around the corner from him in Harlem, New York, as Mosque number 7 was on 116th Street, Lenox Avenue, now known as Malcolm X Boulevard. My grandmother lived on 117th Street in Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, which is 7th Avenue, was 7th Avenue at the time. So I've always listened to him on the radio, seen the influence of the Muslims, but I was raised in the Catholic Church. Fast forwarding, again, came down to Texas, and in the 1980s, didn't have any intention of joining the mosque or getting back into the movement of the Nation of Islam. I didn't even know it was being rebuilt at the time. But I saw Mr. Farrakhan on television urging black people to support the candidacy of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson in 1984. So I just used my degree in political science and went and involved myself in the political caucus process and worked all the way up to the Texas Democratic Convention, where I met the brothers of Muhammad Mosque, number 45, who had set up an unauthorized table. They had bean pies, Final Call newspapers, and books and tapes on the table. And so I got my fair share. And after that point, because I went to the convention, the job that I had, they fired me from the job. They gave me the vacation time. Then the day of the convention, they told me I had to come to work. I told them I couldn't come because I was already had made my plans and people were dependent on me. I got into work that Monday and they terminated me. And so at that point, later that summer, brothers of Mosque 45, a brother named Carlos Muhammad, I'll never forget that brother, called me and invited me to the meeting that summer of '84. I came, I heard, I joined, and I haven't looked back since. And so I'm the father of 4 great sons, been married to my wife, who was my college sweetheart, for 37 years now, and I hold now a PhD in urban planning and environmental policy. And I'm just doing many, many things to try to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan make the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's word bond, that it's nation time.
Wow, that's quite an experience and quite a story. And you closed out talking about you outside of your family, but you also have a PhD. And I just was speaking to someone about something. He talked about how some people have a view of Muslims as if we don't do anything to enjoy ourselves. We don't have any type of fun. They just think like we're just all straight, just all mission. And in addition to that view, some people have a view of the Nation of Islam is just that it's filled with people who were former people who participated in crime and, were in prison. But you talked about how you have a PhD. Can you talk about what inspired you to actually go about doing that?
Well, what inspired me actually was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He teaches all of us that, we should pursue knowledge wherever we can find it to improve ourselves, our family, and our community. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did not discourage me. He encouraged me to pursue my master's and then my PhD. My PhD is a result of my community work, actually, serving as selflessly as I could. And at a certain point in time, I came across the then president of Texas Southern University, who, because of our community work on behalf of the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, said to me flatly, nobody ever does anything for you. You're always doing stuff. Have you ever thought about going back to school? I said, no, I hadn't. She said, well, would you like a presidential scholarship?
Wow.
I said, yes, ma'am. And so she gave me a presidential scholarship. I had to qualify. I had to pass the GRE. And, of course, I had to be qualified. I had to have a transcript and have received a bachelor's degree from Hampton. But I graduated in 1978. So I went back to school. I think it was in my late 40s, early 50s when I went back to school. So she gave me a scholarship for a master's degree and paid for all my coursework through PhD. And I paid the rest up to and through defending my dissertation. So I have gratitude for that because she gave me something that no one can take away from me, and that is knowledge.
Wow. Man.
But it was you have to have good help. Fortunately, I have good help in my assistant minister, Brother Eric Muhammad, that you know very well, who basically held everything together that gave me the opportunity to go to school. So oftentimes I joke that my degree should read not only Abdul Haleem Muhammad, but should read Eric Muhammad too, because he sure helped me earn the degree. Wow. And the believers and all of you who have been patient with me, including the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Wow. And in addition to all of the things that you were doing in Houston, you're very well connected. But also what recently the city of Houston experienced was the impact and the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. Can you share with the listeners about the work that you are doing with the Mosque there, with the CDC, to help those who were impacted by Harvey, and some of just the testimonies and things that you have experienced.
Well, I sadly enough, I have New Orleans to thank for the experience in knowing what to do, how to do it, and why we do it. Remember in 2005, we had Katrina. Mm-hmm. We had many of the people from New Orleans that came to Houston. Through our Community Development Corporation, we were able to provide services, direct and indirect services, to the tune of $3.1 million to 1,500 New Orleans families and 4,500 individuals, where we got them from the floor of the Astrodome, the floor of the George R. Brown Convention Center, to at least a level of self-sufficiency here in Houston, Texas. So we already knew what to do. So once Harvey hit, we simply just put our machinery back in order and turned it up full gear. And with the help of people, generous people from around the country, they initially sent us donations of supplies, cash, what we needed. We were jump-started. And at this particular point, we are now case managing. We've been given 500 families to case manage back to self-sufficiency, and that's what we're doing at this time, along with a lot of other things that have come. People have realized that, recovery cannot be sustained nor long-term if we don't help people become self-sufficient. So there's now resources available to help people to learn how to, there are 4 phases to emergency management. There's mitigation, which is long-term. It includes policy. It includes infrastructure. It includes training and teaching people. There is preparedness, which, of course, is that when an incident is imminent, you get ready for it. There's response, what you do during the incident, and then there's recovery, short-term and long-term. Well, they realized that preparedness, recovery, response, and recovery cannot be successful if during the mitigation phase you don't prepare the people to be self-sufficient. What we learned was the same thing that you all learned in New Orleans, is that the 911 system was overwhelmed by the enormity of the calamity. And so people had to learn how to survive amongst themselves and help and save themselves long enough for the first responders to get to them, if they ever did get to them. So this is something that we have to look at. And I'll close this point by simply saying this. I don't want anyone in New Orleans to get complacent, because now the Essence Festival is back and things, Mardi Gras, things seem to be rolling again. I want to remind everyone that in Houston, Texas, prior to Hurricane Harvey, we had 2 extreme weather events. We had a Memorial Day flood in 2016, and then in 2015 and 2016, we had the Tax Day flood. Then 2017, Hurricane Harvey hit, and now just recently on Independence Day, it seems like the creator, the originator is choosing, the Son of Man is choosing these so-called holidays to remind us, or these very important days. On Independence Day, we had another rain and flood event. So what I, as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under Minister Farrakhan, having read Fall of America, seeing that God's judgment would come in the form of rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes, or natural calamities, see the signs that we're constantly being reminded that perhaps, brothers and sisters, Katrina and Harvey are now the new normal. They're not just anomalies. They are the new normal.
Yeah, that is definitely something, and we thank you all for the work that you all did for those who were impacted by Katrina and with Harvey. And for those who want to find out more about the work that is being done by our student minister, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad, you can go to the Final Call website, finalcall.com, and you can just type in Hurricane Harvey, and you can read about the work that they're doing and that they're continuing to do. There's so much. Also, I had the opportunity to look on your page. You have a very good relationship with members of the hip-hop community there in Houston. And I know some months ago, it seems like once a month and every 2 months you were doing something where all of the artists will come there to the mosque. And I see that you're in the preparation of doing something where it's titled 50 Artists, 50 Meals. So first, can you talk about how the significance of the hip-hop artists that you're working with and the significance of that effort? And if you can talk about the 50 artists and the 50 meals.
Sure. To give you just a background, in the early 90s, it's about 92, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan invited me to his suite, and there he had a meeting with Jay Prince of Rap-A-Lot Records, James Prince. And he told James Prince in my presence that one of his rap songs from his label will reach more of our people than all of his speeches put together. Now, Brother Willie, you know that was very difficult for me to swallow. You know that.
Yes, sir.
That was very, and I tell you something,
wow.
brother. I was slow to move on it, and to this day, I feel very guilty in some senses about those who may have lost their lives, not necessarily through violence, but through abusing drugs or domestic violence or something along that line. I feel very guilty about people wearing these Rest in Peace T-shirts, particularly when it comes to the hip-hop community. So later in the 90s, though, as I finally snapped, and I invited a group of rappers to the mosque to sit down, not for them to write me a check, hold a big concert and write me a check or write the minister a check, but for them to own their own music and their own talent and not to sign these what are called 360 agreements where the record labels and whatnot own not only their music, their publishing rights, but also own their image and their name. That's why it's called a 360 agreement. But for them to own everything that belongs to them, pool their resources, and buy up their community. So, you know, I was urging them to do what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, is that land is the basis of freedom, and that they needed to own some of this earth that they could call their own. At that meeting was the famous DJ Screw, who, of course, invented screw music right here in up the street from the mosque in Sunnyside. The great K. Reno. These are local artists that are well known here. They also knows the Wizard Trader Truth, who was prominent in the Harvey recovery, and even before that, he's been consistent. Brother Trey has been. You had the likes of South Park Mexican, Murder One. I mean, all of the local artists. So at that point, things, you know, I would see them from time to time. They would put me on their albums. Often they would sample my speeches and put them on their albums, and I've always interacted with them. Well, fast forward to 2014 when Michael Brown was killed, and it was really heating up in 2014, if you remember, because of the killing of Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and others. Minister Farrakhan came out to speak at Mosque Mariam regarding right after the Michael Brown killing, and he said that Ferguson was a flashpoint, but Chicago was ground zero. And so after that, we went to our flagship restaurant, the Salam Restaurant, and Minister Farrakhan in this private dining room literally had a receiving line. There must have been over 200 young people, hip-hop artists, gang members, I won't say gang, the street organization members from Chicago that came in just to shake his hand. Now, he made the student minister sit at that table. I'm trying to remember, were you there? Was sitting with him at the table. But at the end of it all, he turned to us and he said, I want you to go back home and replicate what you just saw me do. I went back that Sunday and spoke, and I asked those rappers that were in the audience, would they convene a meeting? And we convened a meeting, and out of these meetings, literally, we probably had a total of 500, not only rappers, but radio DJs, videographers, producers, writers, dancers, photographers, you name it, have just come to these meetings. They've been open to all who are involved or who love hip-hop. That being said, they formed a group called Artists Respecting Community. And doing that, then they decided that they would, one, honor themselves. They wouldn't wait for the Source Awards or BET or this, that, and the other. They would honor themselves. Two, they would promote conscious rap, revolutionary rap with liberation lyrics and salvation songs. And then, above all, they would be involved in community service and involved in seeking justice for our community. And so what you have here, they've done plenty of things in support of the Mosque, support of Harvey. They've been involved in every kind of aspect of social justice that you can think of. And now, basically, what they've done is that they have an initiative called 50 Artists, 50 Meals, where they go out themselves, organize themselves, go out and purchase meals and feed at least 50. That's just the name. It could be more. Mm-hmm. There's more than that, but that's just the name of it to do that. And that's led by a radio DJ here named Vanetta Epps, also known as Miss V, and K. Reno, who again is has a radio show here and is a famous rapper, underground rapper here. I mean, everybody knows K. Reno in Houston. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great, man. That is great, and that's something, a model that many other people need to do as well, because the influence of these hip hop artists is very, very significant. So what we're doing, we're on the first break. When we come back, I know you really have a liking for politics, so we want to get your input on Trump and a whole bunch of other stuff, and even defending the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So stay tuned. We're on the other half. This is Brother Willie Muhammad. This is Classes in Session, and we'll be back with our guest, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad, student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 45. Thank you.
24/7 banking at Liberty? That's freedom. Open an account online anytime. That's right. Open a bank account online anytime at www.libertybank.net. Make deposits at Liberty Bank ATMs. Access Liberty Bank's various financial services online and take control of your banking. Apply for loans or credit cards and check balances at www.libertybank.net. You can make transactions at your convenience. Go to www.libertybank.net now and start an account today. And don't forget to use promo code WBOK.
You might think it's just another day, but at Metro Disposal, this is our day. For more than 25 years, Metro Disposal has been a vital resource for waste management in our community. With state-of-the-art equipment and technology, we are committed to providing a cleaner, safer, healthier environment. This is our community. This is Metro Disposal.
Looking for that perfect gift for a birthday, an anniversary, or how about just to brighten someone's day? Mona's Accents is your one-stop shop for beautiful floral arrangements that are indeed perfect for any special occasion. Dedicated to quality, freshness, and customer satisfaction, Mona's Accents will surely take care of all of your floral needs. So stop by the shop located at 2109 North Claiborne Avenue or call us at 504-944-7001 and let us arrange and deliver your floral gifts. Again, that's 504-944-7001, or you can order online at www.monasaccents.com. Mona's Accents, freshness, quality, and customer satisfaction guaranteed.
This is Oliver O.T. Thomas. For 300 years, people have left New Orleans with stories as their souvenirs. They've told stories of the best thing they've ever eaten, music that made them dance, and friends they've made after midnight. So to celebrate the city's tricentennial, we want to hear your stories from New Orleans. Share them on social media with hashtag #OneTimeInNOLA, and we'll read a few of our favorites on the air. Let's celebrate New Orleans with the tricentennial. We want to hear your favorite stories of New Orleans at hashtag #OneTimeInNOLA. But some kind of something is going on down there.
The New Orleans East Clinic is now open and accepting appointments to meet your healthcare needs. Located on the 6th floor of the New Orleans East Hospital at 5620 Reed Boulevard, the New Orleans East Clinic is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. to service your medical needs. Accepting all major insurances, get comprehensive medical expertise in one convenient location. Our team of multi-specialty physicians focuses on primary care, pulmonary care, orthopedics, gastroenterology, and neurology services. They're dedicated to providing healthcare education and comprehensive medical services to improve your overall quality of life. Call 592-6760 today to schedule an appointment with the New Orleans East Clinic. Quality healthcare close to home. Call 592-6760 today to schedule an appointment with the New Orleans East Clinic.
You're tuned into the voice of the people, WBOK 1230 AM, where it's real talk for real times.
We're back. This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and welcome again to another live broadcast of Class is in Session. If you haven't been listening during the first portion of the show, we have not a radio guest, but we have our guest that's calling in from the city of Houston, Brother Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad. He's the student representative of Mosque number 45 in Houston. Also, he's the representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for the Southwest region of the Nation of Islam. And so while we're talking about that, Brother Minister, as of recently, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has come under attack, or his Twitter, his social media presence has come under attack. Why do you think that there is such an effort to remove the minister from social media?
Well, brother, I think that the people are awakening, and they're not being controlled in this day and time by the major media sources that used to be our only source of information. The internet and, of course, the software and other things that go along with it have made the people independent of those who used to control them through information. So if you have a man like Minister Farrakhan, who the media decided after failing to stop him in organizing the Million Man March, if you remember, he was under unrelenting attack from 1984 through 1996. And Minister Farrakhan, I want you to think about this. If you remember the Malcolm X movie by Spike Lee, and you remember the scene where the brother had got beat by the police, he was at the hospital or at the police station, and Malcolm X's character was supposed to have lined up all of the fruit of Islam in front of the police station about our brother, which is a true story. And then he puts up his hand, and then iconic points, and the brothers, make their right face, and they leave. And the police captain is overheard saying, nobody should have that much power, along that line. Well, imagine that everybody, the Anti-Defamation League, the Democratic Party, Republican Party, the corporatocracy, all of those say, don't go to that Million Man March. Mr. Farrakhan called for 1 million men, and nearly 2 million showed up. Now, if you think that image of Malcolm X holding up his hand was powerful, what do you think is powerful about a man that can make a call for 1 million men and nearly 2 million show up? Isn't that man dangerous? So, after attacking him all that time, they realized that what they did was they gave him free publicity. So what they decided to do was to act as if he doesn't exist anymore. And believe it or not, there's a generation that has literally come up to know nothing about the Million Man March, know nothing about the battles that we've gone through in the 80s and the 90s to get where we are today. And in some cases, some of us thought Minister Farrakhan was dead because of his illnesses, his recovery from the illness, from his treatment from prostate cancer. So what has happened is a guest that you had on the show out of our city, Brother Jesse Muhammad, who's the head of what is called our Twitter army, literally broke Minister Farrakhan out of jail. And through the Twitter army, we have all times when Minister Farrakhan speaks, he's trending number one, number two, not only sometimes in the nation, but sometimes across the world. So when you have that kind of reach, and then as of recently, they literally took 150,000 of his followers away from his account. So it's no surprise to us what they're doing. After all, the Facebook and Twitter were either knowingly or unknowingly used by the Russians to steal the 2016 election. So what makes us think that they would not decertify Mr. Farrakhan's account and purge his followers on behest of the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center?
And what are your thoughts about the representative from the state of Indiana? We was trying to get some type of act passed to against the minister.
Yeah, well, brother, what they're going to try to do, if we just understand the Supreme Court, you got to understand, the Supreme Court just upheld Mr. Trump's Muslim ban. And eventually what's going to happen is just like the Japanese in 1942 through 45 were interned, they're going to try to outlaw Islam in this country, and particularly Islam is taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because this is not some benign Islam. This is an Islam that goes to the root of the thinking of white supremacy. And what needs to be done by black people to uproot it in ourselves and therefore neutralize it, nullify it in white people. I tell you, brothers and sisters, we don't need to sit around here worrying about what they're doing. Black excellence is the greatest antidote and antibody to white supremacy.
And what do you, someone tagged me on a communication in Instagram, and it was actually one of the former defense lawyers for Bill Cosby, the sister. And I think she had posted a quote from Donald Trump where he was talking about how immigration had led to basically the decline in Europe. And he was using that to reference to the immigration issue here in America. Why do you think that black people are still kind of alarmed about what they see coming out of the White House and the impact of him being in the White House?
Well, it is because they have rebelled against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not only just outright, but even very subtly. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught Malcolm X, and Malcolm X paraphrases this statement. He's given credit for it, but it's not his. It comes from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the study of history is a must, for it is best qualified, most attractive to reward our research. See, we don't understand our history. If we understood our history, right there in New Orleans, right there in, I don't know if it's Congo Square or wherever it is, you had more slave auction spots and slave auctioneers per square mile than anything else there in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. New Orleans was a port where they brought slaves, okay? So when we talk about separating families and immigration and deportation, that's how we got here. And then you think about that many of us, during Mardi Gras, you have the Indians, the people dress up like Indians. Mm-hmm. So you got to ask yourself the question, what happened to the Indians that were in the South? Mm-hmm. In 1830, the Indian Removal Act moved all of them out of Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and moved them to Oklahoma, what is called the Trail of Tears, which went through northern Louisiana, Arkansas, to Oklahoma. And then in 1883, you had the Chinese Exclusion Act, where they tried to keep the Chinese out of America. And unfortunately, the head of it really, or the thrust was done by the Europeans who wanted to protect their trade unions. First of all, they tried to knock us out of all of the trades, and then they tried to make the trade unions for the Europeans, and they didn't want Chinese coming in because they didn't want labor challenged by the Chinese, so there was a Chinese Exclusion Act. And so when we look at this pattern, this history, and I mention again the internment of the Japanese, and then we see mass incarceration of black people under the guise of the war on drugs. I mean, why should we be alarmed? We shouldn't be alarmed. We should be getting organized. Or along an unapologetically black agenda. The LGBTQ community has an agenda. The insurance companies have an agenda. The oil companies have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. Black folks should have an unapologetically black agenda, and we should adopt when it comes to politics. We should adopt the motto of the Congressional Black Caucus when they acted more like a body than they do to nowadays, where it is William Clay wrote in his book, they got no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just permanent interests, which is to say that 100 years ago, Brother Willie, we were all Republicans. We only became Democrats in the 1940s under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So what are we giving our heart and soul to any party before we lay our black agenda before any party and say, you want our vote? Here's our agenda. Where do you stand on our agenda? And then we make our decisions based upon that, not blindly following any party or regardless of whom or what. And that's where we have to go in 2018 if we're going to survive. And then here's the final thing. When it's all said and done, if we come to the conclusion that integration, in fact, was a hypocritical trick, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, then what do we do? Do we sit around here and wait for another 200 years for our children, our great-great-great-grandchildren to finally have something? All the civil rights is being challenged now. Voting rights, housing discrimination, police brutality. Everything we thought we had won since the civil rights movement is now being challenged by Mr. Trump, and it's going to be cemented by the Supreme Court when they nominate and put in this Mr. Kavanaugh or Judge Kavanaugh as their. So, brothers and sisters, you need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to consolidate. We need to unify, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we could solve 98% of our problems just through our unity.
And you're there in the state of Texas, and so when they talk about this whole immigration issue or controversy, Texas is always brought up. What are your thoughts about what's at the root of this immigration argument, and your thoughts about the separating of the children from their parents?
Racism. They're terrorizing the people. They want to send a signal to them. They've said it. They will send a signal to them, don't come here illegally. We'll take your children. Wow. And this wasn't the first time this isn't the first time they did it. After they removed the Indians from the South and moved them to Oklahoma, they opened up what we call Indian schools. All of this I can be fact-checked on Google. Any of your listeners can fact-check me on Google. They opened up Indian schools, and in those Indian schools, they cut off the Indians' hair. They forbid them to practice their native customs, to speak their native language. They made them red white people. This is nothing new, is what I'm trying to tell us. And so this is about racism. You see, they're afraid of the browning of America. The demographers already know that if the continue with the immigration, or the people who are already here continue having babies, white people have zero population growth. That means that for every white child born, a white person dies. But black people and brown people are continuing to populate America. And if America really, truly is a constitutional republic based upon a democratic vote, then one man, one vote means that one day we're going to be in charge. But they've done everything they could to keep white supremacy in effect. What have they done? They gerrymandered these districts to make sure that a certain party gets advantage over the other party. They purged our voter rolls. They've made it difficult for young people to vote, for elders to vote, for people to vote straight party tickets. They've done everything they could think of to continue to hold on to the reins of power. And lastly, they passed these tax cuts that benefited the haves or the have-mores now, and the have-nots or the have-nothings now, and the wealth. And then they had Citizens United, which was a Supreme Court decision that wound up making where dark money can come in. So the corporatocracy has literally taken over big government. Big business has taken over big government. Big labor has been diminished. And so now you have no checks and balances. And I can tell you right now, America has become an oligarchy. Black people, we need to unite, come together. It's not about hate. We need to come together, and we need to do something for ourselves, lest we suffer the consequences, which we're suffering right now for disobeying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his servant, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Now, I've seen, I'd like to get your input on this. You're seeing some people black people who are talking about they don't understand the support that other black people are giving to our Hispanic brothers and sisters who are having their children separated. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, is again, they're very myopic, or they're very narrow-minded. They have to understand, man, that Mexico had outlawed slavery. What did they think that the Texas War of Independence was about? Those people came to settle Texas. They brought slaves with them. And at a certain point in time, the Mexicans said, no, you cannot have these slaves. And so they fought a war of independence, and written in the original Constitution of the Republic of Texas was the right for a man to have his slaves. Remember why we celebrate Juneteenth. Texas is the last place that the Emancipation Proclamation was announced. June 19th, 1865. The proclamation was issued really in November of 1862, but it was official in January 1st of 1863. We didn't get it for an extra 2.5 years. Man, look, the war against Mexico was the fact for them to gangster Nevada, California, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona all used to be part of Mexico. And lastly, most of the people coming over the border are not necessarily coming from Mexico. They're coming through Mexico. But these are people who are trying to escape despots, dictators, and tyrannical rulers and right-wing juntas that America has supported in its Latin American policy. There's about 20 families that run all of South and Central America, brother. And these people that run these plantations, that run these farms, that run all of that, run all all of the tourism and own all the wealth, are those who are mostly white, mixed with white European, where the indigenous, Indian, and even those who are mixed with African blood are on the bottom. Look at the people come across that border, man. Take a close look, man. These people are very dark. So they're coming from Honduras. They're coming from other places like that, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and other places like that, man. We need to really open our eyes, man. The only thing that separates us from the people in Haiti is the people in Haiti speak French or Creole. And the people in Dominican Republic speak Spanish, and the Puerto Ricans speak Spanish. Man, we've been separated. We are people who have been separated by these languages and these barriers, Mr. Farrakhan takes. And we better wake up and understand that we're all one people, and we got the same oppressor. The same dog that bit them is the same one that bit us.
And, we're talking about, and what are your thoughts about this whole Trump thing in regards to North Korea?
Well, I'll put it like this. Not one bomb for North Korea, Russia, or Al-Qaeda or the Taliban is going to destroy America. God himself has targeted America as number one on his list. So the one they need to worry about isn't North Korea and Kim Jong-un. America has enough bombs to wipe out the population of the earth 10 times over. So that's not the concern. What this is about is eliciting fear in the American people so that we obey. We'll give up our freedom, our liberty, our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, our freedom of press, our freedom to assemble, to redress grievances with our government, all in the fear of freedom and fake patriotism. Got a bunch of flag-pin patriots trying to run this nation. These people don't believe no more in America than the man on the moon. So this is all about fake patriotism and fake love for this country. They don't love nothing but themselves and how much them and this kleptocracy that's in power right now can steal from the American people. The American people need to wake up regardless of their black or red or yellow or white or male or female or gay or straight. You better wake up and understand that you're on the Titanic and it hit an iceberg. You better head for the lifeboats because this ship is going down.
Now, I've seen from your social media page, actually done which is going to be a 4-part series on tomorrow, part 4 of that series, when it's titled "Nothing New Under the Sun: Separation or Death." What topics are you covering in that lecture series, and what inspired you to do so, and what do you hope the audience to gain?
Well, again, I don't want our people to be stampeded into one political party or stampeded by one philosophy, whether it be liberal or conservative or moderate or Democrat or Republican or Green Party or any party whatsoever. I want us to think for ourselves. When I say nothing new under the sun, it comes from Ecclesiastes, the 1st chapter, the 9th verse. It says that which was, is, and will be, that there's no new thing under the sun. It's nothing new, okay? But I'm saying separation of death is because if we don't separate our thinking, if we don't begin thinking as an independent, sovereign people that operate within the context of this system, then we're going to die because we don't seem to have a friend at all, and all our friends are abandoning us, and the only friend we've got is each other and God. And the last point I'll make, brother, is that we could have saw this coming had we properly read the book by Michelle Alexander called The New Jim Crow. Now, we all focus on the mass incarceration part, and that's what the bulk of the book was about. But the last chapter in that book was called The Fire This Time. If we would have read that carefully, we would have understood two things. One, that this second-class citizen, this caste system that's been created through mass incarceration where people with felonies cannot enjoy the fruits of so-called American dream, would challenge the elite in our community in the traditional civil rights movement, and two, that the resentment or the insecurity, economic insecurity of white people that Dr. King was actually addressing before he was assassinated through the Poor People's Campaign, he began to abandon that old integrationist kind of thing. And what the traditional civil rights leaders would say, that anytime white people would actually speak about their economic insecurities, which really masked their racism, we would just call them straight up racist and we wouldn't pay attention. And Trump played on that thing, man. And 78,000 votes in the Rust Belt determined that daggone election. He played on that, but really at the root of it was their racism, because they felt that every advancement that black people had made, they made it on white people's backs. And so right now, man, they like, I don't care. You're not going to tell me take down my flag and you taking down my Confederate monuments. Them people are so sick and tired of us right now, brother. They feel entitled. One brother just got harassed for listening to a yoga tape in front of a house. So I've heard it all now. We've been what, riding bicycle while black, cutting grass while black, tossing newspapers while black. Now a brother gets the police called on him listening to a yoga tape while black. Dang, I thought I heard it all, bro. We better wake up, man.
Wow. You're definitely seeing a lot of, you're seeing a lot of these calls of children getting police called on them and different things like that. And, you touched on a lot of subjects, and I'd just like to go back to, you can talk some more on this reluctance of our people to come together to unite. Why? It's just you've had for decades all of these different leaders, and it's what do you see? What can people who are listening to this radio station right now do to help facilitate us coming together?
Well, first of all, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan teaches us that self-improvement is the basis for community development. And really, in truth, brother, they need to look in the mirror and ask themselves the question, are we really the children of Israel? And if we are, didn't the children of Israel give Moses and Aaron a hard time, even though God showed them the way out of Egypt and led them through the wilderness and pointed out to them the promised land? And what was the result of that? When they rebelled against Aaron and Moses, God sent fiery serpents after them, according to the scripture. And those fiery serpents, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, are angry white people. Well, sisters and brothers, we have earned the chastisement of God at the hands of our slave masters' children because we would not heed the call. You see, brothers and sisters, it's not hatred for you to get up and do something for yourselves. where any decent, honorable person that see you trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps would not only not curse you, but would admire you. Yeah, I know about Black Wall Street. Yeah, I know about the Wilmington Massacre of 1898. My great-grandparents were there in Wilmington, North Carolina, when they did what they did. Yeah, I know about Rosewood. Yeah, I know about all the COINTELPRO and all of that. But today is the day, brothers and sisters, where we must unite in the name of God. But first of all, be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves the question, how are we contributing to it? How much money have we thrown away in riotous living? How much money have we saved so that we could pool our resources and invest and buy up the properties there in New Orleans so we can make a safe and decent community for ourselves instead of looking to government, whether it be a city hall or the state house or the federal government, to do for us what we could do for ourselves? And what are we going to push back on there in New Orleans now that they've charterized all of our public schools and tore down all the public housing and never hardly rebuilt the Ninth Ward, where most of the people there actually own their homes and there's literally nothing there but slabs now? What are we going to do? Or are we going to sit around still sucking our thumbs? I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, God is not only angry with our enemy, he's angry with us. We need to get up and be obedient to his call and do the things that was required of any decent, self-respecting people. Get up and go and do something for yourself.
And in addition to that, for those who are listening, how could they keep up with you on social media and even with your weekly radio show?
Okay, they can follow me on Twitter at Dots Connector. I'm Dots Connector on Twitter. I got too many followers on
Facebook.
On Facebook, but they can go to Abdul Haleem, Haleem Muhammad. I have a page, Abdul Haleem Muhammad. They can like me and they can follow me on that page because there's no limit on that one. I'm A Haleem Muhammad on Instagram. They can follow me there. And my radio show comes on KPFT Houston. They can go to www.kpft.org, or they can go to 90.1 FM in Houston, and they can listen to me every Wednesday Central Standard Time on 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. And the name of my show is Connect the Dots.
Mm-hmm. And we have about 3 more minutes left. And you've had the opportunity to be around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in very private settings. And, you know, what are your thoughts as it relates to these false accusations of him being anti-Semitic?
Brother Farrakhan is the same in person as he is in public. He's an honorable man. You'd be surprised how many Jews, Gentiles, white people, people of all races, creeds, colors, religion, straight, gay, all come and sit at his dinner table, and he treats them all with honor and respect. What we don't hate Jews, we don't hate white people, we don't hate anybody. What we hate is lying, stealing, thievery, murder, and deceit, mind manipulation, and hiding your wickedness in the name of God. That's what gets Minister Farrakhan in trouble, because he calls that out. It's not that we hate Jews. We don't hate Jews. We don't hate white people. What we hate is wickedness when it parades itself around as righteousness.
So, Brother Minister, we thank you for taking the time out to be on the show, and hopefully we will definitely have the opportunity to bring you back on sometime in the near future. In 1 minute, you have any closing words?
I just want to thank you and the listeners of WBOK there in New Orleans. I send my love to New Orleans. You know I love New Orleans, but I can't stay there for 48 hours before I lose my mind. The food is so good and the people are so warm and friendly. God bless the city of New Orleans. May Allah bless your new mayor, and may God grant you every good desire, brothers and sisters, but continue to strive to be righteous.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And for the listeners, those who are listening, we thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to you all tuning in again on next week. And this is Class in Session by your brother Willie Muhammad, WBOK.